A new first for Aaron Donald in his Rams career, and not the good kind. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us a part of what you do each and every day and listening to the pod. I would ask you right now to click that subscribe button in your podcast feed. Make sure that you get that going so you get your Rams content every single day. Plus, I would also encourage you to check us out on YouTube. We have a Locked On Rams YouTube page as well, which is another great way to listen to the pod. When I am not doing the Locked On Rams podcast, I am hosting the Rams pregame, halftime, and postgame show on their flagship station, ESPN 710. I've been doing that every single season since the Rams came back to Los Angeles back in 2016. Mostly been a pretty good ride. Not so far this season, but, Super Bowl was not that far in the rearview mirror. I also host the Travis and Sliwa show every day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on that very same ESPN 710. Here's what I want to talk about on today's pod. I want to talk about who may be the quarterback on Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. It's the first chance we're going to get to see Seattle this year. Will it be more Bryce Perkins? Could we see a combination of Perkins and Wolford? Could Matthew Stafford potentially be back into the mix? That's coming up in just a little bit. Allen Robinson's season is officially over. Let's take a look at what he did this year and try to quantify exactly how disappointing that was, because as bad as it's been, it's probably even worse than you might be imagining. That's just around the corner as well. But let's start right here. Let's start with somebody who we have spent a lot of time talking about on the pod, but not a ton of time talking about this particular season, because quite frankly, we spent a lot of the time focusing on the offense and a lot of time focusing on their inability to score points. And we have not spent nearly as much time discussing the season that Aaron Donald has had for the Rams. Aaron Donald is on the short list of greatest defensive players ever, right? For me, the guys that I've seen and the guys that I've watched closely, it's Lawrence Taylor, it's Reggie White, and it's Aaron Donald. Those are the three defensive players that have been different than everyone else that I've seen. LT is probably still number one on my list, but Aaron Donald is a very, very close second, and Reggie White's there too for sure. And one of the things that has made Aaron Donald so extraordinary, aside the fact that he's incredibly athletic and powerful and strong and quick and a master of technique and everything that makes him him, he's just durable doesn't begin to describe what he is. He has never missed a game in his NFL career due to injury. Just really stop and think about that for a second. He has never missed a game in his NFL career due to injury. Now, he's missed a couple of games along the way, but those were because of contract situations, right? In 2017, he held out and missed 2 games, but he has been, eligible, for lack of a better word, to play in 140 NFL games. He's played in 138 of them as a defensive tackle in the trenches, in one of the most physically demanding spots on the entire field. Think about what the Rams have gone through this year. Think about everybody that has been in that trainer's room, everybody that has missed time, everybody that may miss the rest of the season with a foot or an elbow or a concussion or this or that or anything else. And Aaron Donald is basically out there 40, 50 plays a game in 40 or 50, 6, 7 second fist fights, and he's never missed a game. Rams are describing it as a potential high ankle sprain. There's no official word yet on his availability for Sunday's game against the Seahawks, but the fact that they're putting this out there right now, I think tells you all you need to know about where they are with him. And look, while it's unfortunate that a streak like this is going to come to an end, it's also not the least bit surprising. Think about this. Aaron Donald has been in this league a very long time. He has put his body through an incredible toll in his NFL career. That he has gotten through this as healthy as he is is nothing short of a miracle. And oh, by the not just good luck, but a testament to the way that he trains his body and takes care of himself, because good luck is certainly a part of it. But if you're not in great shape and do everything that you need to do to make sure that you're ready to go, you're going to drop. And you can even do all those things and you're still going to drop. And he's been very fortunate that that hasn't happened. The Rams are having a bad season. The Rams are going to win somewhere between 3 and 5 games this year. I'd be shocked if it were more than 5. Aaron Donald is not going to help them win 9 games. They're not going to run the table from here and backdoor in the playoffs. And here we go. It's just not going to happen. So for who, for what? I know I've said that a lot. I know I've said that with regards to Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and basically half the offense. But Aaron Donald is incredibly important to what they're going to do as a football team in the future. You need him as healthy as possible. And if that means that he's got to miss some time, and by the way, high ankle sprain is one of those things that the second you hear that go, okay, it's going to be a while. This is what Cooper Kupp had, right? He had to get the surgery, tightrope surgery, which is going to miss. He's going to miss at least 4 weeks. He's not coming back. And I'm just guessing here, but I feel pretty confident in my guess. So that they're hitting Aaron Donald with the dreaded high ankle sprain diagnosis, to me, means that they're getting ready to shut him down. And while the next 6 games are going to be really difficult to watch, 4 of them in standalone fashion, yay. Yeah. Look, Jalen Ramsey's going to get a high ankle sprain, right? Air quotes. I wouldn't be surprised if Bobby Wagner has something happen to him at some point during the season. And I'm not saying that I want these guys to miss time or that they're going to fake, but at some point you just have to make a call that what is in our long-term interest far surpasses what's in our short-term interest. And really the short-term interest for this team is virtually non-existent. It's evaluation. I know what Aaron Donald is. I don't need to evaluate him. I know what Bobby Wagner is. I don't need to evaluate him. I don't need to figure out whether or not Jalen Ramsey can play football. I know the answer to that question. It's everybody else. So I think this is the beginning of what we've been seeing on the defensive side, what we've been seeing on the offensive side for a while with Kupp, with Stafford, with some of these other players that have missed a great deal of time. This is where we are. This is what happens when you go 3-8. This is what happens when you can't score any points. This is what happens when you're playing a third-string quarterback who's in the beginning of his development. You're going to have guys that miss a whole bunch of time, and Aaron Donald is likely to miss this weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if you do not see him again for a very long time, if at all. Okay, coming up next, Allen Robinson's season is officially over. You know it was bad. Did you know it was this bad? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. Now, a word from our friends at Turo. Did you know that Turo is the world's largest car-sharing marketplace? I knew that because I have used Turo, right? I'm not going through the rental counter and doing all those sort of things. I'm finding my drive at Turo.com. You can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. I rented a giant, beautiful, fantastic Tahoe in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and it was perfect. We picked it up at the airport in Spokane. We dropped it back off at the air, like in the parking lot, not going through all the stuff with the host. It was perfect. We got the SUV for that family vacation. Maybe you're thinking you need a truck for a couple of days to run some errands. Maybe you want to try an electric vehicle that you've had your eyes on. Every trip that you make with Turo is backed by liability insurance. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply. Forget that boring rental car experience and find your drive at Turo.com. Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. So Allen Robinson's season, his debut season as a member of the Los Angeles Rams, is officially over. He has a foot injury. He will have surgery on that foot, and he will not be back before the end of the season, which means you will not see number one on the field for the Rams until training camp opens next season. I don't know if what expectations were and what the reality ended up being could be further apart than what happened with Allen Robinson this season with the Rams. Allen Robinson came in as a free agent signee with the Rams and was, I think, almost universally looked at as an upgrade, right? And keep in mind, Robert Woods was an incredibly popular player here for the Rams, an incredibly good player for the Rams. Maybe not Pro Bowl good, maybe not, a fantasy guy that's going to rack up a million points like Cooper Kupp, but Robert Woods impacted just about every single game that he played in, whether it was with a block, whether it was picking up a key first down, whether it was running the ball. And Robert Woods was useful and tough and kind of an emotional center to this offense. Just a very, very productive, useful, charismatic and popular player on the Rams team. And when they made the deal to sign Allen Robinson, you knew that there was going to be an odd man out, and you knew that that guy was more than likely going to be Robert Woods. They make the trade. They send him to Tennessee. That being said, as popular as Woods was, it was looked at as, look, we hate to see him go, but Allen Robinson's just a better football player. Allen Robinson's going to put up much bigger numbers. That Allen Robinson in his career has played with guys like Blake Bortles and Nick Foles and Andy Dalton and the guys that just are not difference-making quarterbacks, and he still put up big numbers, and he was still an impactful player. What happens if you give him Matthew Stafford? What happens if you give him Sean McVay? What happens if you give him an offense that seems custom made for him to go out there and thrive? What if you put him not as a number one wide receiver, but you put him in a supporting or complementary role because you have Cooper Kupp over here on the other side of the field, the reigning Super Bowl MVP, who's going to draw a ton of attention. And now that you've got Allen Robinson on the other side, he's going to go hog wild and he's going to score touchdowns. They're going to throw that fade and he's just going to go out there and get his 8, 9, 10 catches, 80, 90, 100 yards, maybe get a touchdown here and there. And he's just going to go kill it. It was kind of the common wisdom, right? Conventional wisdom. No. Far from it, right? Far, far from it. Allen Robinson's season is over. And in the 10 games that he played in, he caught 33 passes. That's 3 passes a game. Let me say that again. Allen Robinson caught 3 passes a game. Those 33 catches that he made went for a combined 339 yards, which means that's 10 yards a carry or 10 yards a catch, a reception. That's nothing. That's just nothing. That means that there are very few pop plays in there. That means that there are very few first downs that you're picking. There's just not a lot of stuff there. How many touchdowns? 3. Allen Robinson scored 3 touchdowns all season long. This was a scenario where everything that you could have possibly hoped to put him in a position to succeed was there. And this is the production you got. I get it. The offensive line was bad. I get it. The chemistry between him and Stafford never really developed in any meaningful way. But these numbers, 33 catches, 339 yards, and 3 touchdowns, really? I mean, that is just shocking. Van Jefferson is going to put it better. If Van Jefferson continues to play the rest of the season, he's going to shatter those numbers in far less time. I mean, this has been a catastrophe. This is the really scary part about the all-in philosophy, about the F them picks philosophy, about constantly going for the headline guys at the expense of maybe some depth and some flexibility. Because if one of those guys misses, and Allen Robinson missed huge, now what? Now you got Ben Skoranek playing. With all due respect to Ben Skoranek, that's a problem. Ben Skoranek isn't within a million years of a player like Robert Woods. You've got guys that just are not on that level out there every single day, and it's not working, and it hasn't, and it won't. I don't know if there's a way to accelerate the learning curve for him next year. I don't know if there's a way to get him more on the same page with the rest of that offense. Maybe this was just a really difficult adjustment for him, for the offense, for the play calling, for the quarterback. I don't know. But what an incredible disappointment this has been for him, for the Rams, for Rams fans, for everybody right on down the line. 33 catches for 339 yards and 3 touchdowns in 11 games, or 10 games, I should say. He didn't play against the the Chiefs last week. Pretty disappointing. Deeply disappointing. And you have too many of these, and you wind up with a 3-win season, a 4-win season, a 5-win season, and that is where they're headed right now. All right, coming up next, here's what I want to get into. I want to talk about whether or not we're going to see more than one quarterback on Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. This episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Audible. Audible is releasing a slate of new football podcasts that we're sure that you're going to love. Find Block Forever right now, wherever you get your podcasts. Block Forever is a brand new pod from former NFL All-Pro Ryan Khalil and Audible. And what Ryan does is he takes the conversation about football and absolutely takes it to the next level. New episodes of Block Forever will be recorded and released every week ahead of Thursday Night Football. Ryan and his guests discuss topics like player psyche, sports betting, playing through pain, being a leader, all how to deal with the combative teammates. There is nothing that they will not talk about. It's available for free on Audible and wherever you get your podcasts. Catch the full Block Forever series available anywhere you get your podcasts, available everywhere. When you ask, how about right now? Audible, get in the game. All right, so still no official word on whether or not Matthew Stafford is going to be available on Sunday against the Seahawks. And, until they officially shut him down for the season, I guess this is something that we're going to talk about on a regular basis. We're going to talk about whether or not he's available, whether or not he's cleared protocol. I would think at some point in the next week or two, they will have a diagnosis that means he's going to go away for a while and they'll readdress it. And then they won't readdress it. And then it'll be, oh, it's not healing the way that we'd hoped, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, when he left that game in the second half against New Orleans, that was it. You're not going to see Matthew Stafford by the end of the year. And that's not an indictment on his toughness. It's not an indictment on anything other than the team is not good this year. For who, for what? Why put your best players, your most expensive players, the guys that are the most important to your future success in a position where they could miss time next year? That just seems like an incredibly bad idea, which I think is why they won't play him again. So the question is, who do you play on Sunday against the Seahawks? I don't know why it wouldn't be Bryce Perkins. I don't know why it wouldn't be exclusively Bryce Perkins. Sean McVay was a little cagey about it and said that you might see both. They're going to take a look at what Seattle's doing, and then they'll make a determination on what they want to activate, put it in Sean McVay speak, however you will. But it's he's making it sound like they may play both John Wolford and Bryce Perkins. Why? Look, the unanswered question that you have at the quarterback position is not who your starter is. You know who that is. It's Matthew Stafford. The unanswered question is who's better between Wolford and Perkins? I think you've gotten to see enough of Wolford over the years to get an idea of what he does. I don't think that the same is true for Bryce Perkins. I think that what you saw against Kansas City, while very, very average, and that might be a generous assessment of what he was, there was enough in there to say, you know what, let me see that again. Let me see that against another team. Let's see if we can take that one drive that he put together that was deeply impressive, that went for a touchdown, 75 yards, controlled the offense, threw good passes, made good decisions. You moved his feet. See if we can do it 3 times, 4 times in a game. Because Bryce Perkins has the skills that the NFL is kind of telling you need to have at that position right now. I'm not saying that Bryce Perkins is going to become, the Rams starting quarterback anytime soon or if ever, but I do think that the upside, the best version of him far surpasses what the best version of John Wolford would be. John Wolford is a fine player who's little and really hasn't done a whole lot. And the biggest difference that I've seen between these two guys is Perkins throwing with anticipation against the Chiefs. There was no wait. Okay, now it was he hit that last drop, ball came out. Whether it was a good pass or not, we can debate that. Wolford was waiting for guys to get open, not anticipating, not throwing with conviction and anticipation. Perkins did, and Perkins is a better runner than Wolford. Wolford's a decent athlete, and he can move his feet, but I don't think he's Bryce Perkins. Let's see what he's got. Look, if Perkins gets hurt, and by the way, it's certainly a possibility with the offensive line that the Rams are throwing out there on a regular basis, then maybe you make a different decision that you got to put him back out there. You got to play both of these guys. But right now, I'm far more intrigued by what Bryce Perkins might bring to this team than by what John Wolford might do. I feel like I have even though Wolford hasn't played a ton of football, I feel like I've seen enough of it to know what the best version is. I don't know what the best version of Bryce Perkins is. Let's keep that rolling for another week. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rams. Thanks for making us your first listen. Now, for your next, check out the Locked On Sports Today pod. Biggest stories, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.